Hello and welcome to the Amity Kramer Show podcast number 3. I first want to say happy Pride Month, everyone. Hope you're having a good start to the month. Today we are going to talk about the warning signs of relationship meltdown. What does the science say are the warning signs that your relationship is starting to fail? That's going to be a topic. Then the next topic will be free activities that you can do as a family or on a date night. So let's just get started. The first thing about relationship meltdown is knowing that it can happen in any relationships. And so this is not just information for you to consider in your romantic relationships, but all relationships. So with your kid, coworkers, boss, family members, these things can happen in all relationships and you should be aware of them. The first warning sign is the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. This is what the Gottman Institute calls these 4 behaviors that are really destructive in relationships. And I should say that the 4 warning signs of relationship meltdown are directly from the research that the Gottman Institute has done, and they're items that we cover in the Bringing Baby Home class that's offered at Thresholds and lots of other places around, really the city and the country, in fact. So back to the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. I like to call these the traits of doom because I just like that name better. Call them whatever you want. The first one is defensiveness. So this is when someone is feeling defensive, and you can feel defensive for a lot of different reasons. It doesn't have to be anger. Usually people feel defensive as a way to get away from a core emotion. What to do instead is you would own your impact. This might mean feeling your feelings, so acknowledging what deeper feeling you have, and then owning your impact. Potentially, someone could say, I did blank, and I made you feel, and you would express how that person is feeling, and that you're sorry, right? It's really that simple. I did something that hurt you, and you would describe what you did, and acknowledge how it made the other person feel, and say that you're sorry. So that's defensiveness. It's easy for me to say, just do this and you won't be defensive anymore. I know it's much harder. All of these things are much harder to enact in real life, but working on defensiveness is really a huge, huge piece to having a healthy relationship, because if you are feeling defensive, or if every time your partner talks to you, or whoever you're in a relationship with talks to you about something that's upsetting to them or bothersome, if defensiveness is all that is received, it really interrupts closeness, and it's hard to feel close and emotionally connected to someone that is defensive. So, number 2 is criticism. Criticism is when a person is saying negative things about someone else. Criticism happens a lot in romantic relationships. It also happens a lot in the parent-child relationship. One of the ways to get away from criticism is to talk about yourself only. When you're talking, speak about yourself. You can say that you don't like something. You can say that you are concerned about something, but try to leave what actions other people are doing out of it. So if you come up to someone and say, I don't like that you are always eating food in the car and letting it drip all over the seat and making a huge mess. That criticism may be very true, right? But one of the ways that someone can take the sting out of it is to say something about themselves. It really bothers me when I sit down in the car and when I get up, there's like crumbs all over my butt. That is a way to say the same thing, but it's a little less critical. So before you make a statement, think about how you can talk about yourself, your feelings, and your reactions, but not really describe what other people are doing. The third horseman of the apocalypse, or traits of doom, is stonewalling. Stonewalling, I could talk a long time about any of these behaviors, and so I'm going to try to put it in a nutshell. Stonewalling is when you are talking to someone and that person starts to become overwhelmed, and in order to calm down, they disengage. They might go silent or near silent. You can tell when you're trying to talk to this person that they're just no longer engaged. They may not be yelling or screaming or, getting really mad or upset, but they just are not there. And I always describe it as two people might be sitting there in a safe place looking normal, but emotionally it feels like there's a brick wall that has sprung up between them. So stonewalling, it's best to avoid it if you can, but if someone is stonewalling, what can be done is to take a break and allow each person to kind of come back down to baseline. The reason for that is that when someone is stonewalling, when they've kind of checked out, they no longer have access to their prefrontal cortex. Like they can't come up with good ideas. It's hard for them to be emotionally connected. So really honoring that sometimes people do need a break, and that every single one of us has the different levels of capacity for emotional conversation. And one of the ways that you can really enhance your relationship is to do one of two things. One, respect your partner's emotional capacity. And number two is always be working to expand your emotional capacity. Horseman of the apocalypse number 4 is contempt. Contempt sometimes looks really mean, and it sounds mean. There's a tone of voice to contempt. Calling names is contempt. Asking the question, why did you do that, is contempt. But sometimes contempt can come out in a nice voice. When someone says, oh, bless their heart, that's contempt. And if you're not sure about contempt, if you could see the situation that was one person building themselves a big pedestal, and that they stand on that pedestal, and the person they're speaking to is on the ground level, and they're standing up on this pedestal, and they have got their hands on their hips, and they're leaning over to talk to the person that's on the ground, that's less than the one on the pedestal. It's this kind of idea that I'm better than you. I'm better than you, and I'm going to say something, and it is about the words that someone says, but it's also about the tone of voice and the attitude of where that comment came from. In relationships where someone is parenting, it can sound like anything that would indicate that you're better. I'm better at paying the bills on time. I'm better at soothing our kids when they're upset. I'm better at taking care of the dog. I'm better. You are not as good as me, and I'm going to say something to point that out. That is contempt. And in the families that I'm working with, or what I've seen over the years of my engaging with families, is that contempt, for some people, is high right away, right? They yell, they scream, they name call, or just general disrespectful behavior. But more often, families that I'm working with, they really do love each other. They care about each other. They intentionally started a family. And so contempt is usually not there at the beginning of the relationship. What builds and builds and builds first is resentment. And resentment grows and grows and grows, and after many months, maybe many years, contempt can flourish. And so it's a very sneaky one of these signs of relationship meltdown, but beware of resentment And especially if that resentment is leading to contempt. Anytime you start thinking that you're better than your partner, that is definitely a warning sign. So I said the 4 warning signs of relationship meltdown. I just gave you 4. And so this is a sneaky one because it is really 7 warning signs of relationship meltdown. So we just had the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. That counts as number 1. Number 2 is that things are more negative than positive. This means that you have just not very many good interactions with your partner or with your child. And how you remedy this is you do things intentionally that help you feel better, that are kind. So being intentional about your time. Maybe you hold the door open for your partner. How long has it been since you did that? Maybe you, before you go to sleep at night, instead of just rolling over and shutting your eyeballs, you make sure that you say good night, or you tuck your partner in, give them a big hug, tell them that you appreciate them. You don't have to appreciate everything your partner does, but try to find something that you can appreciate, and really be sure to say that more frequently, right? So it's just like the little things is how you make your relationship more positive than negative. And the other thing I will mention is if you find yourself having a lot of negative interactions, just doing some self-evaluation. What might you need for yourself to have more positive interactions? It might mean more alone time. It might mean having a day off. It might mean getting some extra help or doing something fun without the family. What can you do to make you a little more kind to the everyday moments of your relationships? Number 3, frequent flooding. Flooding is when people get really overwhelmed. It's when they fly off the handle, they get very angry, they start to cry, they've blew their fuse, they've lost it. And this looks different for different families, but this is a real warning sign of relationship meltdown. And this one is so scary because when someone is flooding frequently, their bodies remember whatever situation preceded the flooding, and the next time it seems like that's happening again, they can actually flood more frequently or more easily. And so preventing flooding in the first place is always the best idea. And if you notice that this is happening frequently in your relationship, whoa, that is a real red flag. And getting help from a coach, a therapist, friends, potentially thinking like, whoa, what is happening in our lives to make it to where we flood so frequently? Is there a stressor that could be tackled? And you might need help with that. Number 4, repair attempts failing. Repair attempts are something that the Gottman has indicated is an important awareness or important layer. So this is when someone is having a conversation and maybe the conversation kind of starts to go off the rails, right? So it was maybe a respectful conversation, but then there was like kind of criticism and defensiveness. One person was like getting a little grouchy. One of my clients one time said, my partner's getting prickly, and I just love that term, prickly. So maybe somebody's getting prickly, and the other person says, hey, you know what? It seems like we're getting a little heated, and I care about you. I don't want to fight about this. Can we just like bring it back? Bring it back. And the person who was feeling prickly is like, no, we have to finish this right now. And instead of acknowledging and validating that attempt to bring things back down to a more respectful level, the receiver of the repair attempt just like blows it out of the water. It's like, no way, or criticizes or does something else. And so really be aware and notice when your partner is trying to do a repair attempt. And if one or both people are feeling really elevated, the best recommendation is just to stop that conversation. It's not worth yelling and screaming and getting overwhelmed in a way that sets you off for days. You know, I know people that they can, one negative conversation on Friday night can ruin the whole weekend. And, you know, it's sad. It's really sad when you can't have these kind of conversations without criticism and defensiveness and that sort of thing. So really thinking about, number 2 is the easiest one. things are more negative than positive, I think that's the easiest one to shift. You can make things more positive. And I will say before I end this little segment that it takes two to tango, right? If one person is working on minimizing these behaviors and the other person is just like full force into the horseman of the apocalypse, into being negative, into flooding frequently, the relationship won't work. It really is a two-way street. Everybody needs to be working on, again, enhancing their capacity and working towards lessening defensiveness and minimizing criticism. So those are the 4 warning signs of relationship meltdown. Hope it's helpful. If you have any questions about them, just let me know. I love talking about this sort of thing. So happy to take any questions. You can email me or text me or whatever. Moving on to the free family activities. I've got 3 free things that I think will be you'll be interested in. One of them for local families is that the low tides are coming. Now, I've been to the beach accidentally when the low tides were out, and it was so cool. It was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like this before. So if you're new to the city or you've never actually seen the low tides, I want to tell you a little bit about it. You've probably been to the beach at low tide. It's cool. You can see lots of cool creatures. But these really low tides are like twice as low. And so I was I'm not a big reader of the tide charts, but on a normal day in June, so I looked at the chart, and in the show notes what I'll do is I'll put a link to the calendar. So on most of the days in June, kind of the average low tide was minus 1.9. And I think that's in feet, but I honestly do not know. But that was the metric that it was saying on kind of most days, was around that. On the lowest of the low tides that are coming up, Tuesday at 12:22 is, from my reading of this chart, the lowest of the low tide, and that's minus 4.2, which just seems like very low. That's like double. And so imagine all the creatures and sea life you can see. I'm going to tell you the low tide times and see if maybe one of these fits into your schedule. So Saturday, 6:13 is 10 a.m. is the low tide. Sunday is 10:46 is the low tide, and that's a little bit lower. That's about lower than the Saturday tide. Monday low tide is at 11:33 a.m. and Tuesday it's at 12:22. Wednesday is at 1:11 p.m. So really, it's going to be changing each day. And in the show notes, there's a link to the calendar where you can find this information. I'm going to say it again real quick. Saturday, 10 a.m. Sunday, 10:46. Monday, 11:33. Tuesday, 12:22. Wednesday, Wednesday, 1:11. So check out those. It should be really wonderful weather all those days. Get your sunscreen and your sun hat, and go check out what's on the beach. Free date night idea. Actually, I'm going to save the date night for last because I think it's like a really juicy one. I'm going to talk about another family activity you can do. Non-productive family time. You might be in a relationship where you just trade off. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and you take the kids, and you take the kids. And there's just like so much to do. And I know, I have 3 children myself. There is so much to do. There is work. There is community. There is kid care. There is relationship care. There's household care. There's pet care. But it is so very important for you to have downtime with your kiddos. And so, thinking about time where maybe you're not even, no devices, and you just are doing something together as a family that's not in the goal of producing. And one of the ideas that you could do, I'm going to bring you this for the week, is to do some coloring. Coloring is fun. Almost everybody in the family can do it. And just get your coloring sheets and colored pencils or crayons. I was told one time by a occupational therapist that little kids should not use markers, and I didn't know this, but she told me that little kids, really, it's beneficial for them to use crayons or colored pencils because they have to really press hard, and that can help build their muscles for writing. So, potentially crayons, colored pencils, and I was able to find some queer and trans friendly coloring pages. I thought that would be a really great way to celebrate Pride Month. So you can go to gaycity.org, and I will put a link in, and they have a coloring book, and you can print up these pages. There's a number of different ones. There's probably 20 different pages, and that could be something that you do with your kiddos. And even if my recommendation would be that even if your kiddos lose interest and are like off to do something else, you can let them know by setting a timer, or maybe you don't finish the whole page. I'm not saying that, your kid can be left alone for that time, but you can let them know that, nope, I'm doing non-productive time right now, and I will help you in a few minutes. And that can be a way that they can see you, like, oh, my parents are not doing anything. They're not working. They're just coloring. Whoa, I can color too. I can have downtime too. So that's my recommendation for non-productive time. I'll see if I can find some other ideas for you next time. And then my free date night idea is, it didn't start out as a free date night, but I'm going to work you to the free option. There is something very exciting that you could do and vulnerable that you could do. And I have this for date night because it has been shown that when you do a date night that is new and different and risky, it actually builds dopamine with your partner, and so that way your brain is like, oh wow, we did something new and risky, and like, whoa. If you just go to the same thing time and time again, it doesn't give your brain that spark. And so this is called Yoga in Motion, and it is radical self-love. It's yoga in the buff. Seriously, naked yoga right here in Seattle. It is offered once a month, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the perfect date night. It's exercise, it's relaxation, and it is total body acceptance, or moving towards total body acceptance and radical self-love. So radical self-love is sexy, you guys. It is great for date night. And you might be like, Amity, that's outrageous. I would never do that. I have got an option for you. This is organization. They also have a YouTube channel where it is free. So you could be at the comfort of your own home and jump on the YouTube channel and do this for an at-home date night. The other thing that you could do that they have an option for is a pay what you want online class. So tons of offerings from this group, and I just thought, what a cool thing that people are doing. Radical self-love, body acceptance, and movement, which I don't know about you, but I will speak for myself, can always get some new movement in. So check that out. The link will be, again, in the bio, or not in the bio, in the show notes. That brings us to the end of the session, and I will tell you a quick personal story. That is, these podcasts are wild for me. It is, I'm pretty dedicated to doing, at least 2 months worth of podcasts. So this is going to take me pretty much through the summertime. And, I'm just sending them out to the people that are in my group. So I'm not like going totally public yet. But whoa, what a thing to do when you are, unsure how to bring in new clients, and how you are unsure how to serve your audience. Anyway, it just feels very risky, and I have to say I have to talk myself into it. But I hope you enjoy it. If you have any feedback for me, definitely let me know. Thanks so much. Bye.